Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today is Thursday, June 12th. I know it's been a minute since the last episode. It's so busy. I'm trying to stay on top of it, but when you have weekends like this past one where it's just so busy, I think you had 12 major events that happened. And when I say major, I don't mean that they were all like pay-per-views, but like big promotional events with important fights on it and such. It's a lot to keep up with, and it's a lot to stay informed on every fight. So it takes a while to watch all those fights. But yeah, so I've gotten all caught up, and we're going to talk about everything that happened this past weekend and a lot of the news. The big thing that everyone has talked about in the last week, because it's been so a while since I had another episode. Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford. It's official, September 13th, Las Vegas. We don't have a venue yet. We don't know if that'll be Allegiant Stadium maybe or T-Mobile Arena. We're not sure, but it'll be on Netflix. Dana White will be involved with the promotion. 3-city press tour coming up. We're going to have a whole conversation about that on the next episode, which I'm planning to release on Saturday before you have the fights this weekend, like UFC Atlanta with Kamaru Usman, Joaquin Buckley, which I will be in attendance for. Can't wait for that. And then also Richardson Hitchens, George Kambosos Jr. But we'll talk about that on the next episode. Today, I want to talk about all the news that happened this past weekend, all the fights. UFC, Keyshawn Davis, Fabio Wardley, news of Moses Itauma, Dillian Whyte, UFC, more UFC stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. So let's just hop right into it with where I said it once or twice there. UFC 316, Merab Dvalishvili. Is he already in contention to be a bantamweight goat, to be the bantamweight goat? I think that he's getting there. I wouldn't say yeah. I would not say, oh, Merab is the goat of the bantamweight division, but I think that you have to start putting him in the conversation. Obviously, he's only his second title defense, which, to be honest, by UFC nowadays, that's pretty good. When you look at the UFC championship roster, the only other champion right now who's defended the belt 2 times is Dricus Du Plessis. He's the only other one that's defended it twice, and he's about to fight Hamza, and we'll see how that goes. But if you look at Merab, he's beaten Sean O'Malley, he's beaten Umar, he's about to fight Corey, which is really the only guy in the division he hasn't beaten yet. I'm sure he'll beat him. He's beaten Cejudo, he's beaten Jan, he's beaten Aldo. Like, he's beaten all the greats of this division. Of course, you're still going to have up-and-comers, but he could really be dominant for a long time, and I feel like he gets better with every fight. Where if you look at the last Sean O'Malley fight, he still looked fantastic. But this one was different. This one was different. He was completely dominant. Even though Sean looked better, Sean had really good takedown defense, I thought. But to be honest, it wasn't even enough. I mean, Merab, even if you stop him taking you down, Merab is still just going to hold you against that fence, and he's just going to throw you around. His striking was really good on Saturday as well. I thought he looked like a monster. His cardio is unbelievable. I mean, it's like he does 3 lines of coke before he fights every time. But that's just how he is. He's wired completely different. He punches frozen lakes. Like, he's just a madman. And I thought that he looked exceptional in there. And it was just one of those performances where it's like, okay, this guy's a real problem because who is going to beat him? I already see some people saying, oh, move up to featherweight and fight Alex Volkanovski. I'm not going to complain one bit at that, but I also don't want to see every champion as soon as they, start to go on like a really like, oh, are they the GOAT of this division? Or not the GOAT, but are they an all-time great in this division? They move up. That's what Ilya did. He beats Alex Volkanovski. He beats Max Holloway. And then he immediately moves up, and now he's, fighting for the lightweight belt, which is fine, but, you don't really get to cement your legacy at featherweight as much. Merab can make bantamweight still. Once it's time, move up to featherweight. Sure, why not? But he could be champion here for a long time. He's just unbelievable, and he is exciting to watch. I don't care. He's totally changed the narrative on himself. He finished Sean O'Malley. I mean, I can't believe that he finished him. It didn't even look like the tap came in. It was the end of the round. It didn't look like it was going to happen at all. And then Merab just gets a hold on him, and Sean taps pretty quick. And he's just so strong. He's just so crazy. And yeah, I was really impressed with Merab once again. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? He's growing his star power too. He can become a real star for the UFC. And I think he's well on his way to do that. I do feel for Sean O'Malley because he did feel like, oh, he put a lot more into this camp, and it didn't come out right. It is what it is. I just don't think that he's ever going to be able to beat Merab. I don't know how many people will be able to beat Merab right now. It's crazy he started off the UFC with a 2-fight losing streak, and he's won 13 fights since then. He's up there with the highest active winning streaks right now. He's like top 5 or something. But it was just nuts. It was a really, really crazy fight. Just a great performance from the champ and still the champ. But yeah, moving on from that, it looks like he'll be fighting Corey Sandhagen next in a fight that I think that he will certainly win, and I just can't wait to watch the rest of his career. Co-main event there, you had Kayla Harrison submitting Juliana Pena to become the bantamweight champion. Doesn't come as much of a surprise to many people, including myself. I did think that Pena would be able to hold her own a little bit more in there, but Kayla Harrison, honestly, kind of similar to Merab, is just an all-pressure, non-stop fighter and just will not get off you. And she fought pretty similarly, especially with the wrestling, and just completely dominated and dog walked Pena, as many people expected her to do so. I wasn't expecting her to get the submission that fast, but she did. She looked phenomenal. She's now the champion, and calls for the Amanda Nunes fight. And Nunes says she's coming out of retirement and will do that fight. That is a massive fight. That's so huge that Nunes is coming back. Two arguable, probably top. I mean, Amanda Nunes is the GOAT, but Kayla Harrison, you could argue, is in like that top five discussion, maybe. So you've got a huge fight on your hands there. That could be a UFC pay-per-view headliner. I don't know if they will, just because of how many fights they've got lined up for the rest of the year. I would expect this to happen around maybe November, December time, if not like January, February. I don't know how much time Amanda Nunes would need to get back into, fight shape, but she looks pretty good. And Kayla Harrison, had a really exceptional performance. That is such a big fight, and it seems like, well, the last couple years have been a little bit slow for the UFC women's divisions. We're now about to get Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison and potentially Valentina Shevchenko, Zhang Weili. We're in a very good spot. We're in a very, very good spot. Moving on from that, Joe Pyfer had a really good performance against Calvin Gastelum, dominated him. Hopefully he's back in the rankings now. I think it was so funny. This fight was so up on the card with no ranking attached to it. Patchy Mix, man, he looked terrible. And first of all, props to Mario Batista. He's the guy that came in and still won the fight. It wasn't just that Mix looked bad. It was that Batista looked really good. That's the best we've seen from him. And he's now made himself an actual player at Bantamweight, where he's probably top 7, 8 guys in there now. And I mean, I don't think he's any close to a title shot by any means, but he's close to a big fight, and I don't know, he's really a real contender now. So I thought he looked great, dominated him, just kind of honestly beat him up. Wasn't hurting him, but just his shots were so good, so precise, and they looked like they stung. He looked great. Patchy Mix, I don't want to say it was the lights are too bright because he's still like a Bellator world champion and all this, but he did not look good at all. That was probably, I see people saying, and I kind of have to agree, that was maybe the worst debut we've seen from, a big star coming into the UFC. I don't know if he's a big star overall, but in terms of people making their UFC debuts, he had a way bigger of a profile than anybody else. And yeah, it was really disappointing. Curious what they'll do with him next, but yeah, not the best. Vicente Luque got submitted by Kevin Holland in the second round. Kevin Holland's on a good run here. I'd like to see him still get his 6 fights in this year. He's actually on track. He's already had 3 fights. Most active guy in the UFC. And yeah, I mean, he looked really strong there. Joshua Van, we got to talk about this, man. Incredible performance. Stops Bruno Silva in the third round. Completely dominant. Really exciting prospect. Probably one of the biggest prospects in the UFC right now, and he just made himself a contender because Manel Kape is out of the Brandon Royval fight on June 28th in Las Vegas. Van steps in on a few days' notice. I would say a few days' notice, a few days after his fight, and about 2.5 weeks notice. So that's crazy. He's one of the more active guys in the UFC. I think this will be his 9th fight in just over 2 years or something like that in the UFC. But really excited to see him come back. Him and Brandon Royval is a great fight. That's a very big jump up the rankings for him. I don't know. I mean, Royval was number 1. That was meant to be a number 1 contender fight. I don't know if Van wins that he gets the title shot, but he may. It's just crazy how fast he's ascending. And listen, flyweight is a division that Pantoja's pretty much cleared out. So it's not crazy to think, okay, well, Van's a new face. Why not just give him the title shot? Especially if you can get a win over Royval, which is a big ask. But yeah, that's really exciting. Hopefully they put that on the main card. Because I saw before that Royval Kape was intended for the prelims, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But anyways, Azamat Murzakanov also had a great first round finish over Brenson Ribeiro. What else? You had Waldo Cortez Acosta beating Sergey Spivak in a not too exciting fight. Ju Sang Yu had an incredible knockout knockout of the year contender. He was insane. Yeah, it was a really solid card. I thought in Newark, fun fights, uh, capped off by Merab and Kayla Harrison putting on incredibly dominant performances and setting up big fights. It was just a really really nice UFC card. I really enjoyed it. But honestly, what may be the biggest story to come out of Saturday, or at least the fights this weekend, was Keyshawn Davis. So Friday, after I recorded the last episode, that's why I haven't spoken on it yet. Um, Keyshawn Davis misses weight. And it's not like, oh, okay, he's a half a pound over. He was 4.3 pounds over, which at that point, you know you're not going to make weight, and you were doing something wrong in your camp. You don't just happen to come over 4 pounds over. He didn't seem too upset about it. He says, I just outgrew the weight. I was surprised that I made weight last time, which they all say that. I can see Keyshawn outgrowing the weight. I mean, he is really big for lightweight, but it's just you don't come in that much overweight because he came in right under super lightweight, but not far under. You could weigh in a 139.3 for super lightweight title fight, and people are like, yeah, that's right. That's not too light. So it honestly, I feel like there may have been some intention to be like, okay, well, I don't know if I really am able to make the weight. I don't know if I really want to do that. So should I even try that much? That's what it felt like. And well, Edwin De Los Santos played the well and said, okay, we're not going to fight you if you're going to come in with this gross advantage. So we're going to take our money because they still got paid, which is great. And they said, we're not fighting you. So that's awesome. The fight did not happen, which sucks for us as fans, but for Edwin De Los Santos and his career and his safety, to be honest, it was a good call, especially for his financials. He doesn't have to fight and he still gets paid the whole purse or at least a good bit of it. As for Keyshawn, yeah, very disappointing. Loses his world title, of course, because he came in so much overweight. So that WBO strap is now vacant. We'll talk about what happens with that in a minute. But the disappointment doesn't end there. Obviously, his fight gets canceled, so all of his fans that paid money to come see him don't get to see him anymore. And worst of all, after co-main event was Kelvin Davis and Nahir Albright, which by the way was a really good fight, but one that Albright won in an upset. Not terribly surprised. I've never been overly impressed by Kelvin. I always thought that he looked beatable, and it was just going to take a decent opponent. I did think he would win this fight, but Albright of course gave Keyshawn a good fight a couple years ago, and now he got to run it back again with the DB3 and versus Kelvin, and honestly kind of dominated the fight, won most of the rounds, and while it wasn't Kelvin directly involved, but Keyshawn and Keon Davis did have a really great stoppage as well. They, after the Kelvin Davis fight, went into Albright's locker room. I think that they smacked him. They hit him. They tried to get into his team. There's a video of them backstage getting into it. And it's just really disappointing behavior because it wasn't like there was some kind of robbery. It wasn't like Albright was doing anything illegal. He just beat Kelvin fair and square. You know, you don't win every fight, and sometimes you're not the better man. And here Albright was the better man, and he deserved to just enjoy his victory. And instead, they attacked him. I feel like there should be honestly more serious consequences for this beyond just losing your title. I think you should be suspended or fined something. It was completely unacceptable to do that. I mean, like he assaulted him. It's not even just boxing at that point. You're just attacking somebody. So I don't really know what's going on with them. I feel like Keyshawn and the brothers, but mainly Keyshawn's stock has plummeted in the past week from before everybody saying he was the next big American star and put him in there with Tank, put him in there with Shakur, and now loses his world title, doesn't get to fight in front of his fans, and probably loses a lot of fans through it, and then does something like this. Just so disappointing. He says he's going to move up to 140 from now on. I hope he doesn't get an immediate title shot just because I feel like he needs to earn it again. But I would love to see him versus Teofimo Lopez. I know that Lopez is moving up to 147, it seems. So I don't know what they do next with Keyshawn. If Lopez does vacate the WBO title, I could see Keyshawn potentially fighting for vacant. I don't know who he would fight. It could be Alfredo Santiago because that is an easy fight for Keyshawn, let's be frank. And I think Santiago was number one with the WBO. So we'll see what happens. I don't know, but I was just really, really disappointed by Keyshawn this past weekend. Who impressed me was Abdullah Mason. It wasn't his flashiest knockout yet, but he stepped up to be main event, took him on Jeremiah Nakathila, who was his toughest test to date, and dealt with him very easily. He's very patient. Abdullah is not somebody who goes in there and just throws only crazy shots. He just has really good power, and was able to stop Nakathila. Nakathila just had enough over 4 rounds and was just kind of done. and, quit on the stool. I'm not going to blame him at all. I wouldn't want to fight Abdullah Mason either. But I thought he looked great, and obviously the WBO title is now vacant. Abdullah Mason sits at number 2 in those rankings. Sam Noakes at number 1. The WBO has ordered it this morning. Sam Noakes, Abdullah Mason for the WBO vacant world lightweight title. These are two guys that I feel like have been on the brink of this. Sam Noakes been knocking on the door, waiting to get a big fight. Probably is around number 10 in the lightweight rankings, if you ask me, overall. So I've been waiting for him to get at least a big fight. He's now going to get the vacant title fight against Abdullah Mason. I'm really surprised that Abdullah Mason, it seems, is actually going to end up being in this world title fight, even though he can totally go in there and compete with world champions and become a world champion right now. It just didn't feel like we're ready to, move him already to do that. I mean, if you look at Moses Itauma, it's kind of similar where he could go in there and fight for world heavyweight championship right now, but you don't want to push him too fast. He's still young. But it looks like Abdullah may actually get in there with Sam Noakes. And yeah, it's a really great fight. I would not, overlook Sam Noakes in this one. You have to remember that Abdullah Mason has never fought anybody near the level of Sam Noakes, and I would argue to say Sam Noakes may have had tougher opposition that he's faced than Abdullah Mason. And Sam Noakes is also a very big puncher. He's got most of his wins come by knockout. So, it's gonna be it'd be a very tough fight for Abdullah, but it's one that I can't wait to see. And yeah, so it's been ordered. We'll see if it actually happens, but it's a great fight. And really spices up the lightweight division. Tiger Johnson had a solid win over Janelson Boca Chica. Troy Isley had an okay win. He did not look his best. If I'm being honest, it was closer than I thought that it had to be. And he's an interesting fighter because I feel like he's ready, or not ready, but he's really close to getting a title shot, but he hasn't really been showing anything overly impressive or fighting anybody too overly challenging. But who knows? Who knows? He could be in a good fight next. I would like him to fight Emma Williams soon, just because they're both American middleweights. But we'll see if that happens. But he looked solid. Tiger Johnson again is looking really solid as of late. Yuri Cedeno impressed me a good bit. Derek Davis had another knockout, and Patrick O'Connor had his pro debut. So it was a really enjoyable card in Norfolk. It was just really hurt by Keyshawn's absence, and yeah, so very disappointed in him overall. But it is what it is. We'll see what Top Rank does with him. We'll see what Keyshawn just as his own entity does to get out of the situation, because it's not a good one. He really has shot himself in the foot, and it's just I don't know, it's really disappointing. Moving on from that, we got some more big fights this week, and we had Fabio Wardley versus Justis Huni. Was nuts. Wardley was losing every round of the fight. I gave him round 2, which you can even argue. The rest of them, 1 through 9, I gave to I gave to Justis Huni. I thought Huni looked exceptional. I thought he fought really well. I thought he showed I am by far the better boxer. Fabio Wardley sure uses his power and stuff, but Huni was outboxing him on every level. He looked fantastic, and is ready to be okay. Well, Huni's now your WBA interim champion. We were slowing him down. Didn't know if we wanted to push him up there this fast. Well, he's here now. I was getting ready to think that, and then out of nowhere, Wardley shows us why we love him so much, and he throws a monster punch that just puts Huni down. And there is controversy because, again, you have to remember, Huni is winning this entire fight. Doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. The ref counts him out pretty fast. Huni's team has appealed it. I doubt anything will come of the appeal. I don't think that, you're really going to get any change to result or anything's going to come of it, but I don't blame them because that was a really fast count, I thought. And I was a little bit, okay, like, dang. Obviously, this is Wardley's hometown and such, but, I feel that given where Huni was in that fight, he should have been given the opportunity to fully just get a fair 10 count and not get counted out because he seemed fine after. It was a huge shot, don't get me wrong, and I'm not mad at the fight getting called off overall. I just think that he should have been given a better chance there. But, Wardley is now your WBA interim champion. I would not mind seeing a rematch just because I feel like Huni had such a big lead and Wardley did just land, let's be honest, a lucky shot. And, and I don't know, he's a little bit of a Deontay Wilder maybe. But yeah, so I don't know. I would still like to see the Jarrell Miller fight for Fabio Wardley. I think that's a really fun one. I would like to see Wardley versus Huni too. That's another one. You have Moses Itauma or Dillian Whyte, which again we're going to talk about in a moment. That you could do there. There's a lot of options, but Wardley is now mandatory for the winner of Usyk Dubois too, at least with the WBA. And it does kind of suck because Huni had such a good performance, and then just got his lights taken out of him in round 10. But really fun stadium show. Pierce O'Leary, I thought looked really good. It wasn't the craziest fight. It was mostly dominant with him over Liam Dillon. I thought the scorecards were closer than I had it, but he looked good. Liam Dillon always puts up a good performance. Mike Perez over Stephen Ward was a really fun fight. That he got the win in round 9. Nelson Husa, I think it's pronounced, beat up Patrick Corte in 2 rounds and then calls out Mozatama. A fight I actually wouldn't hate because Husa is an undefeated heavyweight. He's in like the top 10 with the WBO, I believe. So he's pretty close, in terms of where Moses Itauma is at, and it's a test for Itauma. He's obviously going in another direction, but hopefully they can still get Husa a decent fight. He had pro debut of Lewis Richardson. I thought that he looked decent. And then you also had Sam Gilly in a draw versus Gideon Onyenani. So I don't know if I thought it was a draw. I saw some people saying that Gilly even lost the fight. He did not look good at all. Again, this guy is I think he's a Commonwealth champion, not British quite yet. But, been a little bit inactive, hasn't fought since October. Comes back for a random 8-round fight on the prelims. Just really, really weird. And then doesn't look good. So, yeah, that was a really bad performance from Gilly, I thought. I know they were trying to get the Lewis Green fight. Hopefully they can still do that and get a British championship or something like that. You also have guys like Ishmael Davis around that weight class you could do. So, I don't really know. But that was a really odd performance. You also had this weekend Junto Nakatani. Can't forget about him. He beat up Ryosuke Nishida, and it was actually a competitive fight. I had a 58-56 at the time of the stoppage. It was a really interesting fight, unification. I thought Nakatani was getting better as the rounds went on. I gave him rounds 1, 2, 5, and 6, with Nishida having 3 and 4. But it was stopped on the account of Nishida's eye swelling up very, very much, and that was a pretty bad eye swelling. So I wasn't complaining at all at the stoppage. And, it sucks for Nishida because it was a big fight and he was fighting well, but Nakatani gets the win. Maybe he fights on the Canelo Crawford card in September. He was a fight that, he was a fighter that Turkey said he would like to see on the card. Obviously, he's close to the Inoue fight. It seems like he's going to be moving up to super bantamweight now. In preparation for the Inoue fight, there's not much left for him at 118 besides getting all the titles, which is just kind of unnecessary. So I am curious what kind of fight he's going to be in next at 122 and who that'll be against. But only time will tell. Also on that card, you had Tenshin Nasukawa returning, who won every round against Victor Santillon. I thought he looked great. Tomoya Tsuboi had his second fight, where I also had him winning every round. Again, only his second pro fight. 10-round fight for like some kind of WBO or like Asian Pacific, I think it was, championship. Also a bantamweight. I thought he looked really good. Again, it's crazy when you have these prospects who are just so skilled that they come over and they're, becoming top contenders in just 2 fights. The way Lomachenko did it, it's just nuts. But yeah, moving on from that card, you had Jai Opetaia defending his Ring Magazine and IBF Cruiserweight Championships against Claudio Squayo. Dominated him. I thought Squayo actually had a decent account of himself. Fought well, was tough in there, taking a lot of Opetaia shots, wouldn't back down, but it just, wasn't enough. And Opetaia stopped him in the 5th round with a big TKO and broke his jaw, actually. He had to go and get surgery, and I could tell afterwards he was touching his jaw. It looked like he messed him up. So, Obata is a monster. We just need to see the Zurdo fight, and this is where it's going to get interesting. Zurdo has a fight end of the month. That's his mandatory. I'm really worried that when Zurdo is finally ready to fight and Obata is finally ready to fight, the IBF is going to be like, okay, Jai, here's your mandatory, and he's going to have to do another mandatory defense, and then Zurdo's going to take another fight, and then Zurdo's going to have to do it. Like, this is just what we've been doing for 2 years, and I'm sick and tired of it. Just make the fight. And I'm worried that because they took this voluntary defense that the IBF is going to give him a mandatory. But I really hope that doesn't happen. Not really too much else to say about that card. Connor Wallace was not super impressive to me. Sure, he won like almost every round of the fight, but it was an 8-round fight against Dylan Cullen, who I've never heard of, and he didn't stop him, and he didn't really just look all that great. And this is a guy who I thought was a top 15 fighter at 175 pounds, and maybe he needs a little more time to get to that top level, but he needs to get a big fight soon for sure. Also, we had another stadium fight this weekend with Callum Simpson versus Ivan Zuko, which was a really great fight, actually. Back and forth. Simpson did dominate most of it in a really entertaining all-action fight, and of course was able to finally get the stoppage in the 10th round, but was dropped early. He was dropped in the first and third round. The first knockdown came like 5 seconds into the fight. The one in the third round was a more legitimate knockdown where he did get. They were both legitimate, but what I mean is that in the third round, he actually got like put down. Not hard, but got sat down, and that he had to work for it to get back those points on the scorecard. But he looked great. Obviously, Mark Jeffers was a fight that was possible, but Mark Jeffers lost his fight to Sean Hemphill. A close fight, but one that Hemphill did probably deserve the decision in. A really fun fight. It was a great fight, but won't be Simpson versus Jeffers now. Simpson, I think, mentioned Hamza Shiraz, which is a really great fight, honestly, in the UK. I like that one a lot. I think Shiraz is just at world level now. Obviously, Simpson is trying to get to world level, but it's tough when you're at Canelo's weight class. So we'll see what they do with him next. But I thought there was a really fun main event there in the stadium. Didn't look like they sold a ton of tickets, which was a bit surprising to me, but good enough crowd. Reese Edwards came back in an 8-round win over Thomas Asamba. He looked pretty good, and yeah, it was a decent card. Nothing too crazy. And again, for a for a stadium fight, though, not a great card. Yeah, it was a good card in terms of it had some fights that delivered, but it also had some that didn't. There's not a lot of knockouts, and for a stadium fight, I want to have a lot of big fights on, and they just didn't really stack this card. But anyways, moving on from that, we've got some other events that happened that weren't quite as big. Josh Kelly beating Flavius Bew in 1 round. He did what he had to do. Wasn't much for him to do in there, but it was just a little bit disappointing that this fight happened at all. Josh Kelly should be in a world championship by now. Maybe not world championship, but he should be close to that. It's unbelievable how he's highly ranked, how he's got this decent enough profile, at least in the UK, and he's just fighting these pointless fights against nobodies. It's so odd. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what Wasserman are thinking with him. I don't know if they're having trouble finding opponents, but they just need to get something going for him because his career is just so stagnant right now. But Tom Whelan was on there as well, had a decision win. He looked all right. Cyrus Pattinson came back in another stoppage win. I'm curious what they'll do with him. It seems like he's signed with Wasserman now. Obviously, when he was with Matchroom, they were pushing him really fast and hard. And, of course, that they pushed him too hard, and he got in there with Conor Walker and got stopped. So definitely want to slow it down a little bit, but curious when we're going to see him back in real fights. But, yeah, it was a decent enough card. He had Johan Ingram, who's the Misfits Pro. He had a stoppage. And then you had Dan Toward come back and get a stoppage as well when he, of course, was stopped in his last fight out in March. But yeah, and you also had Most Valuable Prospects 13, Beatriz Ferreira dominating Maria Ferreira. So Ferreira versus Ferreira. She won every round against her. Really fun fight. Beatriz Ferreira is a fantastic champion. And you know what? She called out another champion. They had Stephanie Hahn there, who is the WBA Bantamweight champion. Or excuse me, lightweight champion. I don't know why I said Bantamweight. Lightweight champion. So same division. They're going to unify, it seems, to fight for the WBA and IBF world titles at 135 pounds. You also have Caroline Dubois there. You also have Terry Harper there. So it's a really fun division. I don't mind Ferreira versus Hahn at all. I know they tried to get both the Dubois and Harper fights, and neither of them were happening. So, we'll see what they do, but we need to get some unifications in that division. Luan Medeiros had a really good win over Tony Aguilar in a very fun fight. I enjoyed that one. Naomi Cardenas upset Brie Howling in a great fight. You also had Rayna Tiaz beating Maria Salinas in another great women's fight. So a lot of fantastic women's action on this card, as there usually is with the MVP shows. But yeah, it was awesome. Travis Ingram and Sona Akale was also a really fun fight. Alexis Chaparro had an insane knockout in the 4th round. So really solid prospects card. They're always so much fun to watch. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. Some other action that happened over the weekend. You had Brandon Moore versus Stanley Wright. Nothing too crazy, but Brandon Moore, won the fight and looked good. Stanley Wright did not come out of his corner for the 5th round, I believe, or for the 6th round, I believe. And yeah, he looked decent. He called out Jared Anderson after. I actually don't mind that call out. Jared Anderson has not looked good. He needs to get another solid American level heavyweight win under him, and I think that is in Brandon Moore. It's not even a fight that I'm confident Anderson wins. It's just one that you would definitely have to favor, so I like that. Franchon Cruz DAZN beats Lali Ortiz in a fight that I thought that she lost. I thought that Ortiz looked really good. I thought she deserved the decision. I had her winning 97-93, so this wasn't even like close. I thought that Ortiz won the fight hands down. One of the judges had it for Cruz DAZN 98-92, which is in contention for the worst scorecard of the year. That is such a bad card. And yeah, really disappointed for Ortiz because I thought that she deserved it. The closest she got was a draw. It's definitely very fishy. And yeah, hopefully she gets another opportunity soon because she deserved that win so much, man, and it sucks. But yeah, Cruz DAZN is likely now to fight the winner of Marshall versus Green, and that would then be for undisputed. But it should be Cruz DAZN versus Ortiz next, honestly. But yeah, also Wendy Toussaint upset Joseph Hicks Jr. That was pretty crazy. Joe Hicks is a decent prospect, but Toussaint hurt him like from the get-go in the first two rounds, and then just honestly just kind of coasted throughout the fight. Won at 97-93 for me. Yeah, it was a really good performance, I thought. And then Ashley and Lozada had a first round TKO, so I enjoyed that as well. You had BKFC 75. David Mundell dominated Donald Sanchez. I had him winning 50-42. Again, this is one of those guys who's just on another level in bare knuckle boxing. There's not a lot that are at this high level, but he's one of them where he's the champion and nobody's really touching him. He wants the Mike Perry fight. I think they should make the Mike Perry fight. He's a big name, and you got to get Mike Perry a fight soon. And I think David Mundell is a champion. Put him in there, give him the opportunity. It's a great fight if you ask me. But he looked great. Murat Kulimatov in the co-main event looked awesome. Nothing too much to talk about. Obviously this was like a week ago when I saw this fight card. It was only 7 fights, which they already only had 9, and then 2 of them got canceled, like day of the fight. So only 7 fights for a BKFC card is not much at all. They tried their best to kind of like string it out and stuff, but the card was over, and like the main card was like only like 2.5 hours long. It was really short, but yeah, it was just crazy. But the yeah, that card was fun enough, I thought, and yeah, it was an interesting one. But moving on from that, the final boxing event, finally of the weekend, was Michael Angeletti Arios Correa. I thought that John Mondoro had a first round knockout. That was really fun. He's a really great prospect. He's won every fight by stoppage. Emiliano Moreno looks fantastic. He stopped Eric Bonet in 6 rounds when he didn't come out for the 7th. He beat him up, just dominated him the whole time. Didn't knock him down, I don't think, but just, again, was just on another level. And then you Michael Angeletti in the main event, which I thought that he looked really solid. I thought that he dominated Eros Correa. Every judge, including myself, had it 99-91 in favor of him. But it wasn't anything too crazy. It was a bit of a boring fight, but he looked good nonetheless. So that's all the fights that we had this weekend. I know we've got some news we'll talk about, and I'll try to do it quick because this episode is already going to get long. But yeah, hopping into that, August 16th, we're hearing we will be getting another Riyadh season card in Riyadh. Apparently, it'll be in conjunction with the esports tournament, which I guess they're doing over there. But yeah, so apparently what we're hearing is it's going to be Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte in the main event, which is actually a really interesting fight and one that I like. I think that makes a lot of sense. Atama's waiting to get a big fight, but they don't want to push him too far into like a real high stakes fight. Whyte wants a big comeback fight. It's a big money fight, and I think that makes a lot of sense. They're both British. It is a fight that could be in the UK, but I don't mind this fight at all. I like it. Pay-per-view main event, I don't know, but this will give the opportunity for Itama to get a very big, you know, star power, I guess, grow his name. But you've also got Nick Ball returning against Sam Goodman, we're hearing, which is an interesting one. Goodman going to move up to featherweight. And, Nick Ball is waiting for a big shot against Inoue. I would like to see him unify, like, really bad, or at least fight somebody from his division. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But I also don't really hate him fighting Sam Goodman because Sam Goodman is an undefeated guy who's, is ready for a world championship. So I don't hate the fight. I just wish it was somebody else. And then you have Anthony Kakache versus Raymond Ford. We were hearing it could be Ford versus Sugar Nunez, in fact, or Sugar Nunez versus Anthony Kakache. It seems like they've decided to go the other route and just cut Sugar Nunez out. Maybe he's going to fight Rocky Hernandez or something, but it'll be Kakache Ford we're hearing, which is a really great fight. 50-50. Difficult to call between you guys. It's a real boxer versus puncher fight. and I really like that one. So that's a great card. I'm sure there'll be more on it. This is of course meant to be Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez, but it's still a solid card, and I'm really excited to see who else ends up on it, and if it does come to fruition, and this is what it is, and it gets announced soon. We do have some fights that will happen tonight and tomorrow night before, of course, the next episode. Starting with tonight, we've got PFL. They've got their first installment of the semifinals, so it's going to be tonight. I think it's welterweights and featherweights. So Jason Jackson versus Thad Jean, which is, again, just a fantastic fight, um, and one that I'm really excited for. This is obviously going to be your main event. As for who wins, it's tough to call. I think that Thad Jean looked so solid and so impressive, and I thought that Jason Jackson looked really good either. I'm not really going to call this one, just because again it's hard to say. Actually, no, what I will. I'll say give me Jason Jackson. But again, it's so hard to say because I feel like he's just got way more experience and much more pedigree. But Thad Jean is younger and hungrier and more explosive. So we'll see who wins. But I'm gonna pick Jackson for now. But upset is very much possible. You also have Logan Storley versus Masayuki Kikuri. I can't really remember much about who won. Or I know obviously they won their fights, but I mean how they won or how good they looked. I'm going to guess Logan Storley. I'm just going to pick him. And of course, the winners of those fights will meet. Jesus Pinedo versus Gabriel Braga is a tremendous fight. Really, really excited for that one. Again, that one's hard to pick. I'll say maybe Gabriel actually, no. I don't know. To be honest, the last PFL card, they all just kind of blended together because they were all in the same card. I can't remember who beat who and stuff, so I don't really know. But this is again one of the best fights. I know this is a trilogy. They're one apiece. It's a really great fight. Yeah, I'll probably say that. I'll pick Braga. Why not? And then you've also got Movlid Kaibalaya versus Taekyun Kim. I'm going to pick Kim in that one. I do remember thinking that he had a really good win. But yeah, so it's an interesting division, both of these. And I like that we're now getting to the semifinals, so it's going to be actually just like exciting fights. And Pinedo Braga is a really good fight, and Jackson Jean is a tremendous fight. And so I'm excited for that main card. And of course, you've got a lot of other alternates on it and such, but we'll see how those go. Um, then you've got on Friday night in Philly, you've got Overtime Boxing returning. It's not the best overtime card that we've seen, I think, but I think that it's a decent one. You have, of course, Leona Cruz headlining versus Regina Chavez in a WBA 115 eliminator. Very important fight. Regina Chavez, I'm glad she's getting this opportunity. If you remember, she fought for the title against the champion Jasmine Artiga a few months back on March in Pro Box TV and lost that fight when I thought that she dominated. I thought she totally won it. Again, she's 8-5-3, so it does not seem like she'd be a really good championship level fighter, but I thought that she beat Artiga, so glad the WBA is giving her due and getting her right back into an eliminator. And this is not a fight that I'm going to go, say, oh yeah, Leona Cruz wins because she has not been the most impressive. She should be able to win this fight when you look at it. It's 10-0 versus 8-5, but I don't know, man. Chavez looked so good, and Cruz has not looked the most impressive in her career. So I'm gonna pick Chavez for the upset. Call me crazy, and we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna say Chavez wins that. Other than that, nothing too crazy. Kurt Scooby returns. Hopefully this is his last fight before they make the Gio Marquez fight because I really want to see that one. Brandon Pizarro versus Israel Mercado. Mercado fight for the NABA Super Lightweight Championship. That's a decent fight. I saw that it's like 50-50 odds, so that's really good. But hopefully it'll be a decent one. But yeah, let's get into some other big news now. Francis Ngannou returning to the UFC. We'll see if that happens. He's obviously interested because he's not really doing a whole lot at PFL, and I think he's realizing that he gets more star power and notoriety there, but I don't really know how much longer he's going to fight for anyways because he's not been active recently. But I believe he still has one fight left on the PFL, contract. And, of course, he's involved with them with, like, Africa and stuff, so who knows. Speaking of UFC, 320 will now be October 4th in Las Vegas, which means we'll not have a pay-per-view event in September, it seems, which is pretty crazy. We also have the Vancouver Fight Night on October 18th. That was announced. Yeah, I'm just really surprised we're not going to get a card in September. They obviously moved it for Canelo Crawford. It was meant to be that date for UFC Noche. That's now just going to be a fight night. I don't know why you couldn't do this pay-per-view just 2 weeks before on the 20th, but who knows. We're just going to have to go through a lot of these, pretty fast, but Sky Sports apparently is not going to be renewing their Boxer deal. It seems like that one on June 7th was the last show, which is a little bit crazy, but I'm not surprised they're not renewing it. I'm curious what Boxer will do next. It seems like they're in a similar situation to Top Rank where they don't have somebody set up and they're saying, oh, yeah, we're going to be doing like, not like one specific place, but we're going to be going to multiple broadcasters, which I don't think is a good idea. I think that you should do the DAZN model where you just put all your events on the same place, but we'll see. We'll see what they do with their deal. But yeah, Raymond Murataya has been elevated to full champion. So you now have Murataya, Shakur, Tank, and the winner, it seems, of Noakes and Mason. So lightweight division is definitely moving into a new era with Lomachenko out. And yeah, it looks like Murataya could be fighting the winner of Cruz versus Minshoro this weekend. Yeah. And then we've got the first announcements for Usyk Dubois 2, the undercard. Lawrence Okoli versus Kevin Lerena, which is an okay fight. It's one that I think Okoli is definitely a favorite in and should win, but we'll see if he actually does. Kevin Lerena has had some decent wins in the past and some decent performances. And then you've got Daniel Lappin versus Louis Edmondson. I think Lappin's going to tune up Edmondson. I've never been too impressed with him. I thought that Dan Aziz beat him, and I thought that was a really bad robbery. I think he's so boring, and I think Daniel Lappin honestly has the goods, and I think he's above British level with Edmondson, which Edmondson is, the British champion. So I think Lappin beats him, and then I think Okoli beats Lerena. But decent fights, not Wembley Stadium level, pay-per-view level, though. I hope they add something else big to this card, like Joseph Parker in the co-main event. It needs to be something like that because this is meant to be a very big fight. Osles Iglesias versus Vladimir Shishkin is possible for either July or September, we're hearing. Either Tiger wants it in July, Salida Promotions wants it in September. I'm guessing it'll end up in September because July is quickly approaching, but that'll obviously be an IBF eliminator for the 168 title. Good fight. Some UFC rumors. We're hearing that Jared Cannonier versus MVP is going to be on UFC 319. I actually really like that fight. I see some people saying it's pointless. I don't care. It's a fun fight. Two big strikers, and put that on UFC 319. You finally have another good fight on that card because it's looking really, really bad. So I don't mind that at all on there. Shanika Johnson is stepping in for Dina Thorsland to fight Sheretta Metcalf and is now going to be for the Undisputed Championship. Obviously, Johnson and Metcalf are both champions, but Thorsland had 2 of those titles. She's going to be having her baby, it seems. So she's pregnant. That's why she's stepping out of the fight. MVP has now signed Shanika Johnson. So, they've got all of the champions now at Bantamweight. They even signed the IBO champion. I can't remember her name, but I think it was Amanda Gaye. So they've got the entirety of the Bantamweight division. And yeah, so it seems like Thorsland, now that she's pregnant, is going to be out for like a year. So she's, let go of those titles completely. And they're just on the line here. So another Undisputed Championship on July 11th. I think that makes 3 Undisputed and 5 Unified Championships overall. It's just nuts. But yeah, Chris Eubank Sr. says he's against the rematch between Eubank Jr. and Ben. He was not for it in the first place anyways, and was just able to side with his son for a little bit. But yeah, I'm not surprised that he's saying this, and I don't argue with him necessarily, but I also just still want to see it again. Duarte versus Sims has been announced for August 2nd. It's a tremendous fight. Really, really interesting one. And Golden Boy is really matching up a lot of their fighters, it seems. We just had Melikuzia versus Fulgham. They also just announced that Manny Flores and Jorge Chavez will be fighting July 24th on a fight night card. So they're really putting in a lot of their, guys that are in similar positions in the same weight class together. And I think it's a really good fight. It's obviously Sims' hometown in Chicago, but I think Oscar Duarte wins that fight. Yeah, this is just ridiculous. We're hearing that Deontay Wilder, Dave Allen is actually possible. It's kind of been talked about. That is just the funniest fight ever to me. But honestly, I don't even hate it. So we'll see what happens, but I doubt it. It's just ridiculous. We've got a huge card announced for Tokyo, or I think it's Tokyo, maybe it's just Japan. On July 30th, Kenshiro Taraji returns to defend his WBC and WBA flyweight titles against Ricardo Sandoval. I'm not mad. Sandoval's been waiting for that shot for a while. It's an okay fight. I just would have rather seen Taraji versus Akui too, because I feel like Akui was winning that fight and the stoppage was premature, so I thought that he deserved another shot there. But anyways, Antonio Vargas will be fighting Daigo Higa. Again, Higa getting his 3rd title shot now, when he lost the first title shot and had a draw in the second one. Now he gets a 3rd one in a row. Every fight he's had a decent performance in, so like I get it, but it's just kind of like, why does he get so many opportunities, But hopefully it's a fun fight. And then you also have Eric Rosa versus Kyosuke Takami for the WBA light flyweight title, I believe it is. So a really good three-pack of world title fights, and yeah, it should be fun. And then we've got Joe Cordina and Sky Nicholson being added to the Jack Catterall Harlem Eubank card. So that one's going to be good. Joe Cordina looks like he's in a bit of a pointless fight. And Sky Nicholson doesn't even have an opponent attached. Obviously, she's moving down. He's moving up. We'll see how successful they are in their new divisions. I think Sky Nicholson will become champion at 122 at some point, I'm sure. Joe Cordina becoming champion at lightweight is another story. But yeah, MVP have also signed Yankiel Rivera, who is obviously a big Puerto Rican fighter. He's really close to getting a world title shot. I think he's also at flyweight, so he could honestly be fighting the winner of Kenshiro Taraji, Ricardo Sandoval, or Galal Yafai, somebody like that. He's really close to getting in that mix, and him signing with MVP, is another fighter they're stealing from Matchroom. They're just stealing all of them. But, I love it. We've got BKFC Sturgis. Main events have been announced, so it's going to be Gorgon Gogo Slavaski versus Julian Lane for the vacant welterweight strap. This was obviously recently vacated. So they're going to want to go ahead and match that up, and I think that's a really fun fight, so I don't hate it at all. And then you've also got Taylor Starring versus Shelby Cannon for the women's strawweight title. Not a bad one there. And yeah, so BKFC's putting on a lot of really fun fights lately. And yeah, excited for Sturgis. Looks like it was a crazy venue last time. So this is really interesting. GBM have announced their June 28th show. It's shifted venues. So it's now going to be Shakan Pitters, Brad Ray in the main event, which glad that fight's still happening. It will no longer be at the Galway Per Stadium. It's going to be at it's going to be in Hull at like a 2,000-3,000 seat arena. I don't even know where that is in England, but Hughie Fury's been added, Shaquille Thompson's been added, both in kind of pointless fights. And then most interestingly, Kieran Malloy is off the card, and he put out a statement saying, "This decision was made by my promoters. The reason why it shifted venues and why he's no longer fighting." They said it was beyond their control, but I think that's really, really weird that they decided, we can't do it anymore, and they kicked him off the card, and they just moved venues. Like, it's just so odd to me, and I really want an explanation from Izzy Asif and co about what happened here, because it's pretty low. He said he was like, yeah, I was selling a lot of my own tickets, and it seems like they were doing okay, maybe not stadium level, but it seems like they were selling a good amount of tickets, and yeah, it just looks like it's kind of backfired. So I don't know. It's disappointing all around from them. I don't know what's going on in their decision making process to do this stuff, but or what's going on behind the scenes. But we need an explanation. We had the announcement of Albert Batragazia versus Jazza Dickens for the WBA interim title at super featherweight on July 2nd in Istanbul. This is like a Wednesday, I think, so a little bit random. And obviously, Dickens getting a world title shot is a bit surprising. Obviously, he did just beat Zelfa Barrett, and Barrett was, potentially going to get a big fight. This is obviously an interim title shot, but I don't know why this isn't for the full. I don't know why it's Batragaziev versus Dickens of all people. I think Batragaziev should win that fight, but whatever. We'll see. Good for Dickens to get that opportunity after he beat up Zelfa Barrett. But yeah, we've also got the returning of Chocolatito this summer, we're hearing. Yeah, I don't even know. Juan Francisco Estrada's returning. Nonito Donaire is returning. I feel like they should all just retire, man, but I don't know. Tito Mercado is injured. He's no longer going to be fighting on this weekend's Richardson Hitchens George Kambosos card. That sucks. He has so many fights canceled. Remember, he had one on the Boots and Bam card in November that got canceled. And then he's got another one now. So he's just trying to be active, but fight week is just always a 50-50 shot if he gets to fight or not. But we do know that Terry Moana is now going to be on this card after his opponent withdrew from the Opataya versus Squayo card. So that's good that they got him back out so quickly. And it's going to be interesting because he was in Australia last week. Now he's going to have to be in fight shape in New York City. So the jet lag is definitely going to hit him, but we'll see. And then lastly, Alan Picasso versus Kaionosuke Kameda has been added to the July 19th Pacquiao versus Barrios undercard. A really fun fight at 122. Kameda gave Neri an interesting night a few months back, and Picasso was meant to get the Inoue fight. So I don't mind this. I think it could be a step down for Picasso when he's so close to getting a real title shot, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't hate it. All right, I'm done with that episode. I'm sorry it was a mouthful. It was a long one. We'll have another episode on Saturday, which should be short, which we'll talk about all the Canelo Crawford stuff, and we'll talk about Hitchens Kambosos, Buckley Usman, whatever happens on Thursday and Friday night. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and peace out.